So Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have all come forward with their new consoles. What were previously rumors are now true. PS4 Pro, Project Scorpio, and the Nintendo NX, all these new consoles are coming out almost within the next year. So let's talk about them. Now, I made a video on the PS4 Pro a while back when it was being heavily rumored, and about a week ago, Sony came out and fully announced it. Its price, specs, all the games that it's going to support are all public information. First of all, I want to talk about the specs. Everyone and their mom is assuming that the PS4 Pro will be able to handle native 4K gaming. That is not, I repeat, that is not the case. At the conference where Sony announced it, they threw around the word 4K a lot, and even beyond that, the media threw around that buzzword a lot too. The end result is, most of the people who watched the conference or read an article on it are assuming that the PS4 Pro can run games at a native 4K resolution with great results. That's not the case. What Sony is basically going to do is upscale the resolution of their games to where they are at 4K or close to 4K. So maybe the resolution of the game is at 1080p, or it could be 1800p, that's been a rumored resolution a lot, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to take that resolution and stretch it out to where it is at 4K. If you guys don't know what upscaling is, you can compare it to stretching out an image in Photoshop to make it have a bigger resolution. The issue with that is the quality of the image degrades by a lot, so in order to combat that, Sony is asking developers to add some special anti-aliasing techniques to sharpen out the image so that it looks a lot better. If you guys want to get a better idea of what I'm talking about, the guys over at DigitalFoundry, shout out to them, have made a great video about how Sony could go about upscaling their games. As usual, the link will be in the description and on the screen right now. Sony also talked about HDR. Woohoo! HDR is basically better color reproduction that can only show up on TVs that support it. It helps to make the game look a lot more vibrant. Now, I think Sony sort of failed with this because they tried flaunting it as if it was a feature exclusive to the PS4 Pro at first, but then later during the conference, they announced that they were rolling out an update which would make all current PS4s support HDR as well. So yeah, HDR shouldn't be a reason for you to buy the PS4 Pro over the ordinary PS4. Other than that, honestly, Sony just talked about which games would support the upscaled resolution and also how games would have improved visuals if they weren't upscaled and just stayed at 1080p. Now, my main concern, and I mentioned this in my last video about the PS4 Pro, is that the PS4 Pro could give players an unfair advantage in competitive multiplayer games. Like, if a multiplayer game runs at 30 FPS on PS4 but 60 FPS on PS4 Pro, those with the PS4 Pro will have a clear advantage, especially in first-person shooters. But besides that, honestly, I think that the PS4 Pro is a really good idea. It's only $400, and while it can't run 4K natively, it still packs a punch. I'd compare its level of performance to that of an RX 480 or a GTX 970. I do, however, think that Sony will eventually discontinue the PS4. There's a good chance that a couple years from now, once Sony has sold enough PS4 Pros, and I think they will, that the ordinary PS4 will be discontinued. Either that or people will just stop buying it, because the PS4 Pro is that much better than an ordinary PS4. Sort of like how the new Nintendo 3DS is outselling the Nintendo 3DS by a huge margin. This deal is also great for people who didn't want to buy a PS4 or who haven't gotten the chance to buy a PS4. Buy the PS4 Pro. It is that much better than the PS4 in terms of performance for only $100 more.
Nigga, I'm A to the N to the O to the N. Break when I go with a flow when it's in. Why y'all messing with
the Xbox Scorpio is in a pretty gray area as far as what we know about it. It's coming out holiday 2017 and it's going to have 6 teraflops of power. Now, that is quite the punch. The Xbox Scorpio will definitely be much more powerful than the PS4 Pro, and it will have a better chance of running games at 4K. However, with that huge jump in performance, there's also a huge jump in price. The GPU I would guess is close to the Xbox Scorpio in terms of teraflops would be the GTX 1070, which has 6.5 teraflops, but that card costs over $400, so I'm pretty sure the Xbox Scorpio will have a premium price. If I had to guess, I would say that the Xbox Scorpio would cost between $500 and $700, but at the end of the day, Microsoft needs to sell a lot of these to make money, so I think they can't go beyond $550. But hey, you are paying for actual 4K visuals with, I think, no fancy anti-aliasing, so it is sort of a good offer. Honestly, one thing that I have to point out here is standards. What I and a ton of other PC gamers consider the minimum FPS a game should run at is 60 FPS, and that's not even good enough in some cases, like with Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And at the end of the day, I don't see either of these consoles running 4K visuals at 60 FPS. I can imagine 30, but definitely not 60. We just aren't at that point yet in terms of hardware. We are very, very close, especially with the 1080 and the new Titan, but we haven't hit it yet. Now, I'm not making these consoles out to be bad, but I just want to adjust people's expectations. These consoles are great, and they are what a lot of developers and gamers have wanted for a while now. Even me personally, I've wanted to play a bunch of exclusives on both the Xbox One and the PS4, but the performance just wasn't up to par for me. But with these new consoles coming out, I'm definitely interested in wanting to buy them and wanting to play maybe an Uncharted 4 at 60 FPS at 1080p, or same thing with Halo. I mean, these new consoles, in comparison to their predecessors, they blow them out the water. The PS4 Pro is way ahead of the PS4, and the same thing with the Xbox Scorpio. It's leagues ahead of the Xbox One, but they still aren't mind-blowingly amazing in terms of performance, because there are more powerful options on PC. And if we aren't at that point where we can play every game at 4K at 60 FPS on PC, then we're definitely not at that point where we can do that on console.
Why y'all messing with the MUZ? I can NUDs with a stroke of a pen. You hoping the best, not smooth ways.
Out of all these new consoles coming out though, the Nintendo NX is the one that I'm most interested and excited for. The reason being is that unlike the PS4 Pro and the Project Scorpio, the NX is its own thing that will have its own games. It won't be in the same development environment as the Wii U. I always get excited when I hear about Nintendo producing new hardware because I want to see how much they've learned from the previous generation. The Wii U was undoubtedly a flop in comparison to its competitors. It was too weak for developers to make games for it, too expensive at launch, and the games got released for it very infrequently for the first year or two. I know I said this before, but look at The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's coming out close to 5 years after the launch of the Wii U. Nintendo absolutely have to step up their game for the NX. There's no room for error. The rumors about this console over the past 4 or 5 months have got me really interested in it though. Rumors saying that Nintendo is working on several first-party games that are going to come out for the NX within like the first year. Rumors about its hardware, rumors about which games are coming out for it. I really want to see what this console is about. So far we know that it's some kind of console portable hybrid where you can take it outside with you and stuff, but you can also come back home and then dock it to your TV. It's also being heavily rumored that it's going to use an NVIDIA Tegra processor, similar to those in Android consoles like the NVIDIA Shield or the NVIDIA Shield TV. But that's one of the things that scares me. One of the big things that hold Nintendo back is that they don't give their system enough juice to run all the new modern games, and I'm worried that that's going to be the case with the NX too. It's being rumored that the NX is going to have a Tegra X1 processor, and I don't think that's going to cut it. The Tegra X1 is a processor that came out in the summer of 2015 for the Shield TV, which is, as I said before, a sort of Android console type thing. And while it does offer much better performance than the Wii U, it just isn't up there with the PS4 or Xbox One in terms of performance. Now, Nintendo has come out and said that the NX isn't meant to compete with either of those consoles, but that still doesn't mean that it shouldn't have a good amount of power, because that's what will allow third-party devs to make their games for it. I mean, there are still a lot of variables to take into account. Maybe the X1 processor is just a placeholder until Nvidia finally releases the X2 processor and puts it in the software development kits. Or maybe now that the X1 isn't tied down by Android, developers can have more control over the processor and its power. I mean, I don't know. There are a bunch of things to take into account, honestly. But yeah, if this thing is going to be successful, and I hope it will be, it needs to be cheap. I'm talking $250 to $300, and it needs to have a bunch of first-party and third-party games. Now, I know that sounds like common sense, but it's because Nintendo didn't do those things with the Wii U that it failed. Nintendo really needs to succeed with the NX. Another flop like the Wii U could really hurt them financially. But even with all the risk involved, I'm still pretty hyped for the NX, and I will definitely be buying it for that Zelda, that gorgeous ass game. It's most likely that Nintendo is going to announce the NX officially in the next month or so, so let's hope we get some good news. But yeah guys, that's the video. What do you think about these new consoles? Are you excited? Are you gonna buy any of them? Or are you just gonna stick to what you're playing on right now? Tell me what you think in the comments section. I know it's been a while since I last uploaded, and this video is long overdue, but I just wanted to make it. And yeah, I will be making an update video maybe over the next couple of days. But anyways guys, thanks for watching. My name's RejectedPlayboy, and peace out.
Pick it up.